All right, so this is part two of my two-part series discussing expansion in the NBA forthcoming. If you want full details of when I expect the league to expand, how much it'll cost per franchise, and some of the other markets that might be in play or those that'll be thrown out there that won't, check out my previous video. Just go to my channel page, scroll down, you'll see it. It's one of my more recent videos. I give a comprehensive breakdown of why these cities won't be getting teams and I think there's 4 or 5 I mentioned as plausibilities. But ultimately, I think the NBA, in a perfect world, is going to expand to Seattle and Las Vegas. I think Seattle is a slam dunk. Trust me, Adam Silver would have to fuck this up in a historically bad manner for Seattle not to be one of the 2 expansion teams. And ideally, I think he wants Las Vegas as that second expansion team. I think everything's falling into place for that. So I'm going to assume that the perfect world happens for the NBA, and they expand to the 2 markets they want the most, Seattle and Las Vegas. Obviously, Seattle is going to be called the Supersonics. That's a foregone conclusion. Venom, that's just a place card holder that I saw on the NBA 2K22 download screen. Looked at some of the other ones, and they weren't too appealing. A lot of teams that were called the Aces, but that's the WNBA team. I don't think that this expansion franchise is going to encroach on that. I think they're going to want something of their own. I don't think they're going to want to share naming rights with a WNBA team. So Venom was the one, the best of the lot, so to speak. I don't know if that'll be that. I doubt it. But for this video, I just picked that one so I could have a Vegas team on here. It was the one I enjoyed the most. Anyway, that all being said, when we expand, we're obviously going to have to see some conference realignment and some moving and shaking. And as you can see here, you've got more teams in the Western Conference than you do the Eastern Conference. So we're going to have to do some moving and shaking. And the 3 teams that are most linked to possibly moving to the Eastern Conference are Memphis, New Orleans, and Minnesota. When you look at Memphis and New Orleans, though, and I think New Orleans would make a lot more sense in the Eastern Conference Southeast Division, but you look at the geographics of this, New Orleans is not that far from Memphis. It's not that far from Houston. In fact, the only real island for New Orleans is San Antonio, and that's a little under 600 miles away. Meanwhile, you look at these others, I mean, San Antonio is fairly close to Houston. It's fairly close to Dallas. It's not terribly far from Memphis. So all of these teams have some close proximity or close enough proximity to one another. Then you look at Minnesota, and they are just absolutely on an island of their own in the Northwest Division. I think the closest market to them is Oklahoma City, and that's damn near 900 miles away. So I certainly foresee when expansion happens that Minnesota will be the one to move to the Eastern Conference. And I think geographically, you put them in the Central Division. That makes a ton of sense. I mean, Minneapolis, St. Paul area is, yes, I'm using a Nintendo Switch. One of these days I'll get better technology and give you, more quality than this. But in the meantime, I'm the starving artist that's settling for basics. But we're going to put Minnesota in the Central Division. I said it makes way too much sense. They're close to Chicago, close to Milwaukee, not terribly far from Detroit, Indianapolis, and Cleveland. So Minnesota moved to the Eastern Conference in the Central Division. Makes way too much sense. They're not on a complete island now like they are currently speaking. So where does Vegas go? Well, they're not going to be in the Southwest Division. I just put them there for now. But I think there's 1 or 2 directions they could go. You could move them to the Northwest Division, but I don't think you're going to put 2 expansion teams in the same division. Plus, again, geographically, I think Las Vegas makes a lot of sense in the Pacific Division. It's, not far from Phoenix, about 5.5 hours from Phoenix, about 5.5 from Los Angeles. Sacramento and San Francisco also close enough drives. So I think you're going to see the Las Vegas team moved to the Pacific Division. Now, some other factors that could happen here. I'm looking at one right off the bat, and that's the Northwest. That's Oklahoma City. They're in an island of their own. So the way I could see things happening here is I also could see Oklahoma City, even though there's that rivalry right there, Seattle and Oklahoma City, even though they're separated by a large distance. We all know the backstory behind that. That would be probably the most heated rivalry in basketball today. But I don't think it's going to last. I think OKC is sort of almost on their own island as well. I see Oklahoma City moving to the Southwest Division, where, again, Close proximity to Dallas, San Antonio, Memphis not terribly far away, New Orleans not a terrible hike. There's some history there between New Orleans and Oklahoma City. As you remember, the Pelicans, then Hornets, were homed in OKC when Katrina happened. So that does happen. You've got to move something else because you've got 4 teams in the Northwest Division and you've got 6 in the other. There's an imbalance. 1 of 2 teams are making a move. Number 1 is either Sacramento or Golden State. And I hate to say this, I think Golden State is too valuable to that division. The Pacific, as long as Curry and Thompson and the Splash Brothers are still there, I think they're staying. I think Sacramento is the one that's going to make the move to the Northwest. And geographically, again, it makes some fair amount of sense because you've got, it's not horrendously far from Portland, Denver, Utah. These are decent hikes. So that's the way I see the NBA conference alignment being. And this is under the pretext that they actually move Oklahoma City to the Southwest. They could leave well enough alone, but I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to look at the geographics of this and shake things up. So the Northwest Division is going to be Utah, Denver, Portland, Sacramento, and Seattle. The Pacific is going to be the Clippers, the Lakers, the Suns, Golden State, and Las Vegas. The Southwest is going to be Memphis, Dallas, New Orleans, Houston, San Antonio, and Oklahoma City. Moving to the East, you've got the Timberwolves coming over. Everything stays on par and on point otherwise. Only thing I can see shaking up here is if, maybe they move the Wizards to the Atlantic Division, but I think they leave that alone. I think that's, there's enough geographic closeness between them and Charlotte to where you just leave it be. Now, if by chance Las Vegas fumbles the football, or we see a Pelicans relocation, which is a possibility, the Pelicans wind up moving, let's say, to Louisville, for lack of a better, just for argumentative sake, I could certainly see the Pelicans moving to the Southeast Division, and then you move the Wizards up to the Atlantic. But in the meantime, though, assuming everything stays status quo and pat, these are the divisions I see the NBA having when expansion goes down. Agree with me, disagree with me, that's cool. Feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below. And until next time, I'm JP. I'll talk to you soon.